Yo, we step up in the scene, check your engine is clean. DPF guys got your ride smoking green. No block, no drag, just pure machine. Come show us your truck, we'll make it pristine. We just wanna know, can your diesel out cold? Bring something dirty, we'll turn it to gold.
Okay, we are live. Hello, everyone. It is September 15th, 2024, and I'm actually on streaming live on TikTok as well. Hello, everybody on TikTok. And if you're not following me on TikTok, please do so. And if you're not following me on YouTube, why not? Look up DPF Guys on YouTube. Anyway, so here we go. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm just going to take a look over here to my right, and then say what I'm going to do is I've got 10 questions that came in through the week. I'll be answering those, and I really look forward to answering your questions as well. Just kind of hang tight. And I do have two people that have left questions over the week will win. One will get a cool DPF Guys hat, and one will get a DEF refractometer, courtesy of DPF Guys. So wait till the very end for that. And of course, share this with the rest of your friends out there on TikTok. Let's get a bunch of people on here and really rock it. So if you want to see what's really going on, jump over to YouTube or Facebook to the DPF Guys YouTube page, YouTube channel, or the DPF Guys Facebook page, and you can just make your mind explode watching all of these videos. All right. So thank you for joining us. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to the DPF Guys channel on YouTube so you don't miss any of our future content. And if you can spare about 0.3 of a second to tap that like button wherever you happen to be, it helps us a ton and keeps the algorithm happy, especially on YouTube. So we are DPF Guys. I am James, your DPF guy. We focus 100% on diesel after-treatment services for anything with the diesel engine and an emission system. Most of our customers are fleets, big or small, mechanics, and owner-operators. We love the owner-operators. Brian Bond, a shout-out to you, as always. But also, we service after-treatment for diesel passenger vehicles, such as your Mercedes, your Range Rovers, etc., and off-road equipment like tractors, excavators, earth movers, skid steers, and more. We even handle stationary equipment like generators, pumps, rock crushers, and beyond. I like to say if it has a DPF, we can clean it. Call or text us at 404-999-1361 for more info. And that is 404-999-1361. So you can see it there as well. Take a screenshot if you need to for more info. So stay tuned. Make sure you stay tuned until the end, where we'll spin the wheel, spin it twice, and see which two people who submitted questions will win a hat or a DEF testing refractometer. And don't forget, feel free to drop your thoughts and questions in the chat throughout the session. And that's especially true for those of you on TikTok. I'm live on TikTok, by the way. If you haven't followed us on TikTok, please do so. There's a lot of fun stuff on there. And last but not least, disclaimer, always talk to your mechanic about any concerns you have with your engine or truck. Any pricing discussed here also may or may not apply to you and should only be used as a guideline. Nothing I say here is an official quote for any services by DPF Guys or anyone else. I don't want you to be watching this and I say, oh, it's going to cost $750. And then you go, hey, I saw you online and you told me whatever. So if you actually want to know how much something's going to cost, message me directly and we can talk more about that. But everything I talk about is going to be fairly close. I just want to make sure I'm kind of protected here. Now, all of you who are watching on Facebook or YouTube, look at that. I am on TikTok just as live as can be. So thank you, everybody on TikTok. We got 100 people looking right now that are actually joined the live. Tired Truck Driver, Bart Bailey Top Claw, Incredible Chops, almost done. Lewis, et cetera, et cetera. Hey, anybody on TikTok that wants to tap my big melon a couple of times and throw me a heart or two, that is freaking awesome. Really appreciate it. Okay, let's get into these questions here. What do we got? Question number 1. All right, let me jump over here and get that on the screen for you. Okay. And this is user 921-029-135-2790. You know who you are. From TikTok. Um, and he says, I did message you about my DPF long time ago. Cummins X15, Kenworth T680. My miles are high, 929,000 miles, and it's working fine. But at the same time, I'm worried. I only use stuff from Walmart. Should I clean the system or leave alone? So, all right, this is a great one. Hey, TikTok, you get that? You guys get that question? It's a good one. Um, so here's my answer. It's, you're doing an amazing job with your truck's maintenance, and your results are exactly what I expect. As an aside, I hear a lot of people saying, my truck's always breaking down, and it's because of the DPF. Well, look at this. Here's a guy that's running a truck, approaching 1,000,000 miles, and he's never, never had any DPF issues. I suspect you're using a fuel additive and keeping your air filters clean and running a good motor oil. It's funny how the impact on upstream stuff has on um, your DPF performance. So, if you have, if you're running dirty oil, if you're, you have plugged up air filters, et cetera, that can really impact that. Um, but and he asked about the Walmart DEF. Totally cool. Perfectly okay. And there's no benefit in buying anything else that's more expensive, like Platinum DEF, as long as the DEF that you buy, Walmart or otherwise, um, turns it over fairly quickly. You want to make sure that the the DEF isn't getting old on the shelf. Um, but apparently the DEF you're buying is working quite nicely. Um, and This being said, I'm willing to bet that your DPF is flowing good, but it is almost completely full of ash at this point. Um, and ash is very fluffy, and very permeable. So even if the filter is almost completely full of ash, I see this a lot with Volvos and Max. Those things can handle a ton of ash and still function quite nicely. Um, but here's what happens. You could run the truck until it finally complains and starts asking for a regen, but because um, that ash does not burn, it's already burned completely. Um, you're not going to be able to make any room for anything more. And by the way, thanks, Mirsad, thanks for the question. I'm going to get to that. I'm going to run through these as quick as I can, and then we're going to focus on the TikTok crowd. Um, so what I'm getting at is you could run the truck until it finally complains and start asking for a regen. But when a truck gets to this point, what's going to happen to you is that it'll happen fast, and your truck will likely derate in a matter of a few days or even a few hours from when it first acts up. This won't hurt anything, but it will be a roadside breakdown, which is an expensive way to learn that your DPF needs maintenance. I would say that you push the rig as far as I'd want to push it. And as cool as it would be to go another 70,000 miles, 71,000 miles, and say that you went a million miles between DPF cleanings, um, I, you know, and that would be darn cool for sure. My concern is that the truck will eventually, will derate on you, and now it'll do it at the worst possible time, middle of the night during a rainstorm, and you'll have a load, and that's a mess. So I would say, plan on getting that thing cleaned. Come and see us. Give us a text or a call. Of course, 404-999-1361. So come see us soon and keep on trucking. All right, question number two. Question number two from Frederick Heerling, also from TikTok. How long does the catalyst in the DEF system last? Now, I'm not sure if Mr. Frederick is asking about the DOC or asking about the SCR. Both of those are catalysts. They do different things. The DOC is used during a regen. It boosts the temperature of the exhaust so it can burn off the soot. The SCR, the selective catalytic reducer, is what interacts with the DEF to turn the nitrogen oxides, the NOx that come off the engine, to turn that into just nothing more than water and nitrogen out the tailpipe. So if the engine is good and you're not dumping too much fuel into the system and you don't have any issues with coolant or oil leaking in the system, your DOC, DPF, and SCR should last the life of the truck. And again, that's if it's cleaned properly and not damaged during cleaning, that sort of thing. It does seem that the Detroits, the DD13s and DD15 engines have a tendency to crack their DPF filters at about 500,000 to 600,000 miles. But I believe this is mainly due to low compression, which can normally be resolved by a valve adjustment, or what's also known as an overhead. So that being said, well maintained, your DPF, your hardware for your DPF should last the life of the truck. Not always, but it doesn't surprise me when it does. Okay, what do we got here? Number 3. I have a 2014 Chevy Cruze. What do you charge for DPF inspection and cleaning? You know what? I'm going to switch my camera. I'm going to flip it here so that my stuff is facing the right direction. There we go. That's better. I'm a little OCD about that. First, about the Chevy Cruze. If you are not having any issues, no need for us to help you yet. But if you see soot on your tailpipe, your DPF has failed, and there's really nothing we can do. It's time to get it replaced, or straight pipe. But don't tell me, don't tell anyone I told you that. If you are having issues where your Cruze is complaining that your DPF is full, then it's time. And we do our work once everything is off the vehicle. And if you wanted our help, we can introduce you to a good mechanic to help with that. If you're far away and want to ship that Chevy Cruze DPF to us, by all means, text or call. You know what to do. 404-999-1361. And we'll definitely hook you up with somebody and we'll get you taken care of. All right, question number 4. And like I said, my friends on TikTok who are part of the live right now, thanks so much for joining. I'm going to be getting to all your questions as well. Okay, what do we have here? Almost done 359 from TikTok. I had injectors replaced about 200 hours ago. Looks like one of them failed, causing issues with my DPF. First, we got a code for high DPF outlet temp. DPF replaced. We got high DOC outlet temps. Replaced the DOC outlet temp sensors, no change. Took it back to dealer, found bad injector, replaced injector, no more high outlet temps, and the truck will now complete a parked regen. However, it is now throwing an SPN 4364 FMI 18, and that particular code is the code saying your SCR isn't SCRing quite right. It's not converting NOx properly. The dealer replaced the outlet NOx sensor. And now says we have a bad one box. However, according to the paperwork, they didn't seem to do much in the way of diagnosis once the 4364 showed up. Until now, they never had any regen. We never had any regen issues at all. All right. So if you've got a 2015 Freightliner, and again, that's going to be 2014, 2015, 2016, and you're getting NOx conversion errors, codes, it's a good chance you need a new one box. I've talked about this a number of times in the past. Happy to talk about it again. But the 2015 vintage Freightliners with the Detroit engine had an issue with the fuel mapping, causing the engine to overfuel and produce too much heat downstream. What it comes down to is the SCR is very sensitive to high heat, and it'll begin to vaporize the catalytic metals inside there, and it will no longer convert NOx. They did have a fix for this, but by the time people did the fix, it was too late. So anyway, so if you got a 2015, you probably need a new one box. If you don't have a 2015, you probably don't. That's going to be my number one thing. Now, the dealership is just following the troubleshooting. Do this, this, and this. So that doesn't fix it. Give us $22,000 for a new one box. If you do need a new one box, you know what to do. 404-999-1361. Call or text. We can definitely help you out with that. All right, what else we got here? Question number 5. Doesn't some ash go out of the tailpipe? And I guess, it depends what you mean by some. And by the way, someone just asked me about a cleaning and DPF on a 3500 Ram. We're going to get to these questions coming in via TikTok live here in just a minute. In fact, let me check to see if I've got any chat questions here. Cool, I do not. All right. So I guess, the typical DPF will trap everything down to about 10 micrometers, maybe a bit smaller, which is actually thinner than a human hair and big enough to catch the soot, because the soot and ash is larger than the size of the pores in the DPF. Um, and so, but you said some. Again, I would imagine there's probably a few things, particles of soot or ash that do get broken down smaller than that tiny, tiny 10 micrometer size. Um, but really, none is supposed to get through. If you see any soot on your tailpipe, that means you've got a problem that needs to be addressed. Um, if you see a white powder on your tailpipe or on your stack, that's actually not ash. That is a remnant of the DEF called an ammonia salt, and tiny amounts of that is released and it will coat the inside of your tailpipe, um, with a white powder over time. But it's not ash. Okay, question number 6. What do we got here? Oh, this is a long one. Understand you're just trying to keep a job, but EGR and DEF is killing every diesel engine, and for everyone saying that diesel is bad for the environment, do you know what the DEF is doing? Um, so I do realize that the EGR cooler is a pretty messy design, and I agree that pushing dirty exhaust back into the engine is definitely something that would be better if it could be avoided. In all fairness, it's funny to me how so many people will complain about how they don't want that dirty exhaust going back into their engine, yet they are totally okay rolling cold on the road for everybody else to breathe. But that's neither here nor there. Hopefully, in the future, and they're working on this, the SCR technology will improve to the point that the EGR cooler is no longer needed for NOx reduction. And as far as DEF goes, you're asking me what that DEF do, and I have to say not much. DEF is just urea and water. You could drink it if you wanted. I wouldn't recommend it, but you could. Um, if I get enough likes on my live, I'll get some DEF and make a martini with it. So DEF is just urea and water. DEF and nitrogen fertilizers are essentially the same thing, just at different concentrations. The manufacture of DEF and the package manufacturing of DEF and the packaging of DEF creates a much larger environmental impact. So yeah, I mean that the cardboard and the plastic for the bottles and everything like that, and then they they produce the urea synthetically using hydrocarbons, using usually natural gas and things like that. And basically, it's the same process to make DEF as it is to make fertilizer. And one of the arguments against it would be, y- the DEF, producing DEF, um, interferes with the market for producing fertilizer, which causes fertilizer to be more expensive, which makes food more expensive. I mean, it's a whole conversation. But don't worry, DEF is not going to hurt you. It's not going to, just be careful with it, like you would like with anything. Which also reminds me that when it comes to things like putting fuel in your truck, make sure that you put some distance between you and the tank so that you're not breathing all of those fumes in. I mean, and it's not something that's going to hurt you, if you do it once or twice. But if you're a professional truck driver and you're putting fuel in your truck every single day, um, you know, chronic exposure to this stuff is not good. So don't worry about spilling DEF on the ground. DEF is water soluble, not hazardous, and no, it is not pee, any more than your pee is DEF. So what I'm saying is don't pee in your DEF tank, and because DEF is not the same thing as pee. I know the old timers like to go, it's cow piss. Well, that's just silly. It's not. Um, question number 7. What do we got here? My truck, this is from TikTok as well, Rob72383. My truck regens every 300 miles on the dot. My volume should be 0. And the and I'll answer someone said, what is it then? What is DEF then? I'll get to this in a second. I've got 2 more questions to go after this one, or 3 more. If your truck is running a passive regen every 300 miles or so, um, you know, eh, not a big deal. Let it do it. if it's calling for a parked regen every 300 miles, you're not far from being hooked up to the back of a tow truck. So I would definitely recommend getting that looked at. Now, I don't know what truck you have. If you've got a box truck, a Freightliner M2, or an International with a Cummins 6.7 engine, and you've got 250,000 miles on that, that thing is probably puking out soot, and you probably have a injector issue. So no matter what, a regen does not empty your DPF magically. Unfortunately, we all have to adhere to the basic laws of physics and thermodynamics. So you can break matter down, you can make it smaller, but you cannot make it disappear. So no matter what, regen does not empty your DPF, it just makes more room for more stuff. So I did not find out what sort of truck this person has or how many miles are on it, but if they have 300,000 or more miles on the truck, think about getting the DPF cleaned. If they have 500,000 or more miles on the truck, stop thinking about it and get it clean. So I'm not sure if he's just talking about going into passive regen every 300 miles, which wouldn't really bother me too much. But if that truck's calling for a parked regen every 300 miles, what's going to happen is 300 is going to turn to 200, 200 is going to turn to 100, and 100 is going to turn to, about 100 yards. And pretty soon that truck's not going anywhere other than on the hook for a tow truck and back to the dealer for an expensive repair that they could avoid with a cleaning. But thanks for the question anyway. All right, let's move on to question number 8. What do we have here? Do you all work on a Ram 3500? In fact, I'm going to be talking to some of my friends on TikTok here. Yes, we do. Ram 3500, 2500, Ford F-250, 350, etc., etc. Duramax, you got it. The process of cleaning a lighter medium duty truck or a car or a forklift is the same regardless of what it's the same as as an over the road Class A truck. Somebody's got a little Chevy Cruze, same thing. But the way that they're put together is there's more we have to do to physically separate them into the core components, clean everything, and then carefully weld everything back together. So the cost is a bit higher. However, turnaround time is still 24 hours for the most part. Might be a day and a half in a pinch, but still, we're going to turn that thing around fast. You're going to be back on the road. So yeah, your Ram 3500, Ford F450, 250, 350 Ram, all the Rams, the Duramax, etc. We definitely do those. And of course, 404-999-1361 is the magic number. Text or call us. Okay, moving on. Number 9. Why don't the U.S. government have emission on their vehicles? And that's exactly how it was written. Well, why don't they? And the fact is the U.S. government does have emissions on their vehicles, just like you and I do. Fire trucks, ambulances, etc. They have emissions. Now, if there's military equipment that's pre-emissions, because remember, a lot of the stuff was built back in the early 2000s prior to emission requirements. And I come from Wisconsin, not too far from Oshkosh, where Oshkosh Defense is. And I would always wonder, they would have flatbed train cars lined up for miles. And I couldn't figure out, what are all these Humvees and all this stuff doing here? And what they would do is they would ship everything back to Oshkosh, and they would strip those vehicles right down to the frame, just down to the frame rails, and they would rebuild them. And I remember asking, that's got to be more expensive than buying new Humvees. And they said, well, it's two different budgets. That one budget bought them, and then the maintenance budget is what rebuilds them. So, so if someone gets a Humvee completely rebuilt in 2020, 2024, but the thing was built in 1999 or 2000, 2001, it's all pre-emissions, and it goes back on the road and it's good to go. It's kind of like a glider. Now, I know this thing, people are like, oh, why do I have to have a DPF and there's not one in the Army? Well, that's just I get it. I don't know. That just seems like a silly thing to say. It's like going, how come I can't have a machine gun, but they can have one in the military? I mean, that's just kind of that's weird logic. Um, because military vehicles do operate under different rules than you and I do. I mean, that's just common sense, right? You can't have a stealth bomber. Um, and military vehicles, what else do they not have? AC, no airbags, no license plate. They've got big guns on top, etc. If you want to argue that you should be able to delete your DPF because an MRAP doesn't have a DPF, I'd say that your logic requires a little bit of tuning. Um, I guess it's an easy thing to say is, well, the Army doesn't have this, and the Navy doesn't have that, and the Navy SEALs don't. I there's a lot of things that the military does that is different than what you and I do, and they do it for obvious reasons. Um, so it is what it is. Government vehicles do have emissions, just like you and I do, with the exception of some of the big military equipment, and a substantial number of the military equipment is. And no, you can't put a 50 cal on your thing. You can't. Yes, you can buy a Thompson. You can buy things that are, but you can't do a full auto, M16. Um, and I remember, I do remember too, like for instance, I was in Wisconsin, when the drinking age went from 18 to 19, 19 to 20, 20, and then 20 to 21. And, oh my God, well, someone else can do it. How come they can do it here? How come I can get drafted, but I can't? It just is what it is. That's what the law is. And, if you get pinched for having a deleted truck, go ahead and make that argument and see if they say, oh gosh, that's right, we just won't give you a fine. But I get it. It's a pain in the ass. We're trying to make it less of a pain in the ass. We don't make the laws. We just allow you to comply with them. And if you choose not to, then don't. But it just is what it is, right? Okay, number 10. From Taylor Lown 230, also from TikTok. What are your thoughts about the new Scania engines coming to the US that are able to pass standards with no DPF, DEF, or EGR? Okay, this is interesting, and I need to do some research on this, which I've started. I'll be publishing an article on this, the Scania engines, coming up soon on the dpfguys.com website. So check that out, DPF Guys. While this sort of technology does sort of make me pucker a bit because, I'd hate to lose my livelihood, but so it makes me nervous. But I think a zero emissions diesel engine, if that's possible, is a much better option than forcing electric trucks on all of us. And definitely keep an eye on Edison Motors because they're using the Scania engines to run their generators. And I tell you, if they actually make that work, that would be pretty cool. All right. And so now, well, I guess that's it. There you have it. Your questions, my answers. Thank you everybody for watching. And I'm going to end the live. Actually, what I'm going to do is won't end the live till I go through a few of these questions here. Leave your questions and comments below, or text your questions to us directly at, I'll say it slow, 404-999-1361. Of course, just Google DPF Guys Atlanta, and you'll be able to find us that way. Remember to subscribe to the DPF Guys YouTube channel, like our Facebook page, find us on TikTok, and thanks for watching. Now, hey, let's do this thing. Let's spin the wheel and see who of you who sent some questions in. One of you is going to win a hat, and one of you is going to win a very helpful DEF testing refractometer. Just a shameless plug for these refractometers. We sell them for $10. They're real cheap. And it's a great thing to keep in your glove box. It doesn't take batteries. I mean, it'll last forever. And if you've got an issue, check your DEF quality first before you do anything else, just to eliminate that as an issue. So you don't spend a lot of time and money diagnosing something when you just might have some DEF that's not quite up to snuff. But who wants to see me spin the wheel? I don't know. Actually, you won't see this unless you're on the live. So the TikTok people won't see this, but the people who are watching on YouTube and Facebook will. I will describe what I'm doing here. So The first spin is for, let me turn this question off. Go back here. All right, so we've got the first spin is for the hat. Let's give it a spin. Cool. So that was Rob 7283, whatever that is. I made a note of it. You win a hat. So I'll send you a private message and I'll get your address and everything else and get that on all get that hat over to you. Now let's spin this thing again to see who wins the DEF refractometer. Ready and go. All right, user 921 and a bunch of numbers from TikTok just won the DEF refractometer. Okay, well, that concludes the official live, but I'm going to stay live here. And let's take a peek at what's going on with TikTok here. Hello, everybody. You've got my full and undivided attention, everybody. And if you're still watching me on YouTube or Facebook, thanks for hanging around. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'm going to quick check to see if anybody posted a question here. Oh, we got a couple. Sweet Little Red's Garage, man. Thank you very much. Hold on a second. Let me type you an answer. Oh, he's on YouTube. That's awesome. All right, cool. Andy, hang on a second here. I'm responding to these cats. All right, with your address. Okay, so poor Andy. Andy was saying, let me switch over here. Andy was saying, I never win anything. And I'm like, Andy, you are a winner to me. Okay, cool beans. I'm going to switch this over so it actually overlays. So that's here. All right, cool. Now you can see all the comments here. All right, so I'm going to scroll back through my TikTok here and let's see. And I apologize that I was ignoring you, bad host. What is it then? I'm not sure. Oh, what is DEF? That's the hang on a second here. So Neil Brown, you're asking, and I'll have to screenshot that because that qualifies as a question. So you're going to be entered into the drawing for the hat and the refractometer for next week. So check back. So what is it then? What is DEF? DEF is two things and two things only, and it's the same for everything. So no matter what somebody says, you know, my DEF is better, whatever it is nothing but deionized water, which is water that has been distilled, and all of the any of the minerals are out of it. Just basically distilled, plain old, just distilled water. And then it is urea, 32.5% urea and 67.5%. Is that right? The 67.5% deionized water. And the urea is just a nitrogen compound that breaks down in the SCR. And that's it. So it's just urea and water. Now your P, if you want to talk about P, I'm sure you all do, is there is some urea in your urine. It's a very small percentage. But it's and they, again, the old guys go, hey, it's nothing but cow piss. Well, it They used to make it a cow pee, but it's much easier just to make it synthetically, and away they go. So DEF is nothing more than a nitrogen compound and distilled water, and I probably wouldn't recommend drinking it, but you probably could. You'd probably poop your pants after you did that, but all right, what else we got here? Scrolling through. Thank you everybody for joining. Thank you everybody for hanging around. Let's see. Hang on a minute here. What do we got here? All right, cool. Andy, you are my new best friend. All right, what do we got here? Papa John. Thank you everybody for joining, by the way. Batman. I tell you what, sorry about your parents, but you got a pretty cool cave. Richard, what do we got here? I wish we could just filter out the comments here and I could look at them. Just purchased a 24 Duramax. I would say yes. Now, again, somebody who's actually got a Duramax might have a different opinion about that. But from what I see on the after treatment side, they're pretty bomb-proof. I'm not sure if the 24 is the same way, but the other Duramaxes we work on are a bit of a hassle because when it comes time to clean that DPF, you got to pull that whole thing off, and the assembly from tip to tail is probably 14 feet. It's a bit of a nuisance to work on, but a 24 Duramax, you're going to be really happy with that. I will tell you, Sergeant Bama, that I strongly recommend that you use the OEM air filter. I have seen on these newer medium duty trucks, like the Duramax, the Fords, the Rams, all with diesel, of course, that people will plug up their DPFs very quickly. Meaning, literally 30,000 miles, 40,000 miles. And what it does is when you put on an aftermarket air filter, the flow rate isn't what it should be. It could either be too much flow, too much air, not enough air. I'm not sure what it is. I think it's actually too much air. And it throws off the fuel air mix, causes the engine to burn dirty and fill up your DPF. So use OEM air filters on that thing. That's my recommendation. If anybody out there has got this problem where they put on an aftermarket air filter and very soon after that, their DPF plugged up, you should be able to swap the aftermarket air filter back to an OEM air filter, bring the truck to the dealer, have a forced regen done, and you should be good to go. But that Duramax is good. I like it. And no, you can't put anti-aircraft guns on the top of your truck. You can't. And yes, you can own a Thompson. You can own machine guns prior to a certain date, but you're not going to be able to own a full auto, M16, that sort of stuff. And regardless, the law is the law, right? And you don't have to like it, but if you decide to break the law and get caught, and there's consequences for that, just accept your consequences. That's all. That's all I can say. It's just, be cautious. Will there ever be a tier 6 system? I hope so. And by that, I mean, I'm not trying to make things more complex. I'm just afraid that somebody's going to have the bright idea that, all the diesel trucks need to be pulled off the road and we all have to go electric, and not taking into account all of the unattended consequences for that. So the longer we can keep diesel engines on the road, and keep them, keep the tree huggers as happy as possible by having really effective emissions, I think that's better for everybody. Like I said, I like the guys at Edison. Or no, Tesla. Edison? Yeah, Edison Motors. Up in Canada, they do some really interesting stuff. If Edison is out there and they see this, shout out to you. I'd love to get you on my show sometime. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I wonder where this is all going to go. My biggest thing is, I wish that they would build more reliability into the newer trucks. Um, ever since they kind of decided that a truck should only last 480,000, 500,000 miles. And that's not just the after treatment. It's, again, it's the engine, transmission, batteries, all these things have a much shorter lifespan designed into them. And I think that's sad. And what's even worse is this equipment is getting harder and harder to repair. And I really wonder about, kind of the right to repair. Where's that going to go? I don't know. The whole thing is we're just doing the best we can. We're keeping trucks on the road as inexpensively as possible. And not saying it's always cheap to get it done, but you know, the people have told me that they spent 10 or 15 or $17,000 at the dealership, and they're going to come to us and maybe spent $1,400 and been back on the road. So I'm not trying to be cheap, but I'm trying to be efficient, frugal. And one of the things I do try to do is really, really turn people around quickly. I don't know if the dealers have simply forgetted that if your truck's not on the road moving, you're starving. Your truck's in the shop for, it takes a week for them to look at it and everything else, back and forth, back and forth. Um, but you still have to pay your insurance. You still have to pay your mortgage or your rent. You still have to pay, your kids' braces and what have you. The whole deal is, we want to get you in, get you out, and keep you out. We want to clean that DPF as well as it possibly can be cleaned, so that if you came to us after 400,000 miles, hopefully all, knock on wood, that truck will stay on the road for another 400,000 miles. And that's our number one goal. We serve you guys, right? And we want to do it well. We want to do it effectively. We want to do it cost effectively, efficiently, and as quickly as possible. There you have. That's kind of my pontificating on that. All right, what else we got here? Clinton Kirker, you are the shizzle, man. You're the guy that introduced me to Clint and Kurt from Clean Air Fleet. In fact, let me shake my jug. Hold on a second. Clean Air Fleet. Don't drink it, but it's great for your truck. Use this stuff, and if everybody on the road ran Clean Air Fleet, I would probably have to get a second job, because I couldn't make a living cleaning DPFs, because this thing keeps trucks on the road longer and stronger than just about anything else out there. Clinton Kirker can testify to that. Oh, what else we got here? Okay. Average cost. So remember I said, don't quote me on prices. This is one I can be pretty confident about. So an F-350, 2011, 350,000 miles, never been cleaned. You probably do. You go to the Ford dealership, they're going to want to keep your truck for, for infinity, and then charge you, $8,000, $7,000 to replace that thing. So an F-350 needs to be dropped off the truck, taken off the truck, sent to us, or brought to us, or we'll pick it up. They do ship really well, by the way, and we actually have plans for, we can send you to how to make a crate with just a few 2x4s and some construction screws or nails, or bolt that thing together and send it on over. But to do a DPF on a Ford F-350 is a flat fee of $750. Plus if if there's any freight involved or whatever, but $750, and we can turn it around in 24 hours. Now, if somebody sees this video, 50 years in the future, that number might be different. So definitely check with me before you do anything. But yeah, you can ship it to us. They ship really easy. The DEF is good for your grass. It would actually, it has too much nitrogen. It would actually burn it, just like your dog peeing in one spot too much will kill the grass, because it actually has too much nitrogen. So I wouldn't put it on your grass directly, whether you smoke it or golf on it. All right, let's see what we got here. Why would I have DEF come in on my, this is actually an interesting one. So I'm going to pin that up here. Why would I have DEF coming out of my exhaust at times? I don't think it would be DEF. It might be just condensation because what happens is during the the process uh, of catalyzing your NOx, one of the byproducts is just water. So it could just be condensation, it could be water buildup. I don't think it's DEF. Um, and if it is DEF, your truck is probably really overdosing, and there's something going on. But I have a feeling it's water and not DEF, because that's really, amazingly enough, is a byproduct of combusting diesel, which is why when you look up in the air and you see the contrails behind a jet, that's water, and that's actually that's a byproduct of burning jet fuel, which is basically diesel. So you're probably just seeing just residual water from the combustion process. That's my guess. Steven, thank you for your question. Where are you guys based out of? So currently, and you'll be seeing us in more places hopefully soon. We're based out of Atlanta, Georgia, and which, right at the crux of 285 and 75, and oh my God, it is traffic in trucking paradise out here. I don't want to say traffic paradise because it's far from paradise, but yeah, so we're in Atlanta, right by the airport. Easy to get to, easy to work with. We try to keep it simple. Atlanta. Thank you, Adam. All right. Any other questions that I missed here? If I did, make sure you. Okay, this is a good one. What's the best oil to run heavy duty trucks? Mine's got 800,000 miles, still carb compliant. Now, what the professionals tell me is, um, keeping your oil fresh is definitely beneficial. Any oil is better than old oil, but they, amazingly enough, they don't recommend Rotella because there's better oils out there. Clinton Kirker runs 100% AMSOIL synthetic. Very good luck with that. But I would say, one of the things I'd recommend is 1 micron bypass oil filtration, which is what Clinton runs on his truck. He also runs 1 micron filtration for his diesel as well. But you keep that oil filtered, you're going to keep a lot of that foreign matter out of there. And that 1 micron filtration, believe it or not, will actually leave the oil cleaner in your truck than it is out of the can. Hey, Michael John, is that a Filipino flag by any chance? Because my wife's Filipina. I think it's a Filipino flag. I can't quite tell. A lot of them, some of these countries have flags that look very similar. So if I got that wrong, I apologize. But if it's from the Philippines, I'm with you, brother. White color. So that is white color on the exhaust is just DEF residue, basically kind of a salt. It's a not salt like you put in your popcorn, but like an ionized buildup of, normally it's an ammonia salt, I believe, and that's just something that's left over from the SCR, the NOx catalyzation process. I don't know how you say that. But you'll see like a very fine white buildup over time, and that's a good sign. It means everything's working pretty well. So that's good. So Chuck, your things are looking good for you. The name of the stuff in my jug. Let me shake my jug at you. So this is a fuel additive, and it's called Clean Air Fleet, and it's by Clean Air Fleet. Now, Clean Air Fleet, I think it's one of the best additives on the market. There are other ones that people have very good luck with as well. So if you're using something you like Pittsburgh Power or Hot Shot Secret, I'm not going to talk shit about those, but this is what we do sell. A single gallon of this will treat 320 gallons of diesel, as you can see. So it's about 4 ounces per 10 gallons of diesel fuel. That translates to about 10 cents per treated gallon. And so the Clean Air Fleet additive it's multifunction. So you're going to be getting um, you're going to get something that will drop water out of your diesel fuel, which is good. You'll be getting something that will increase the cetane, which is really important because the cetane that your engine is asking for is actually more than is in typical diesel fuel. Your engine will still run, but it's about 10 points of cetane, 8 points of cetane um, short, and so this will return that cetane. Also, it adds the lubricity that the sulfur that was once in the diesel provided, so it helps things with any of your fuel systems, such as your fuel pump and all of that stuff. Um, it will also break down carbon buildup in your fuel system, in your injectors, etc. Especially this stuff called asphaltene. Asphaltene is actually in crude oil. It's taken out during the refining process, but it's produced in the crude oil under pressure and temperature. But guess what goes on in your engine? Pressure and temperature, right? So it creates these nodules of asphaltene. It'll break that down. Also, it's an anti-gel. So really, you use this and you don't have to use anything else. It will allow you to go longer distances between DPF cleanings. Now, any additive, I don't like to sit there and promise that you're going to get better fuel economy. The fact is, you will get increased fuel economy. You'll get more bang for your buck out of your fuel, but not enough to justify purchasing this because, like I said, it's going to cost you about 10 cents per gallon for a fuel to use this. And the fact is, your increased fuel economy will probably offset that. It usually does. So it's a wash. So if you bought this to get better fuel economy, you're saving $1 and spending $1, right? But so the added fuel economy, um, uh, hold on a second. Okay, I don't know what this thing is doing here. I can't. Oh, because I'm pitching a product, it's yelling at me. Um, the I'm going to take this down so I don't get kicked off. So the added fuel economy basically pays for the additive, and then all the added benefits, um, really is where you make the money. Now, if you're out there and you're running Pittsburgh Power or Hot Shot Secret and you really, really like it, keep doing it. Just do something. And I can always tell. If somebody uses an additive because they come in to get their DPFs cleaned with really, really high miles. And at any indicator of that, I got a guy with over 900,000 miles, 929,000 miles in his truck, and he hasn't had to get his DPF cleaned. So, and he's not using this, so I can't say he is, but he is using an additive, and I forget which one it is. But we sell this. You can pick it up in Atlanta. We ship it. You can simply go to cleanairfleet.com, tell them that DPF Guys sent you. They'll hook you up. They can ship it right out of Wisconsin. They're out of La Crosse. You can pick it up there. And they do have several dealers across the country. So, they can help you out. They're not, at least, they're not as widely distributed as kind of the stuff you hear about on satellite radio. But we want to get it there. So, I think probably a couple of people watching me right now they're probably they're probably using this and they're loving it. So that's the stuff in my jug. Khan says, what truck stop has good def? I would, my guess would be any truck stop that has, that's popular. That's turning over the def frequently. I would say, having a def refractometer is going to be a really wise thing to do because, again, they're like $10-15 to buy one. We sell them for $10. And if you're ever in doubt, put a drop of def on that thing and check it out just to make sure it's okay. But the big, the Flying J's, all those, they have so many trucks come through there that def never has a chance to get old. But you never know. Someone might have a crack in the def tank underground, and it's getting water in it. It's watering down the def. It's not going to be, it won't be functioning like it should. And anyway, so a def refractometer is a wise thing to have in your glove box, and it's cheap. Ounce of prevention, pound of cure. Yes, wonky. All of the above. Any good additive, anything that can um, cause the diesel to burn more completely and more efficiently will definitely help with soot buildup throughout the entire system. A big believer in the clean air fleet. Those guys, the people that own the company, are two brothers, Clint and Kurt. They're just the real deal, down to earth guys, answer your questions. And I really like that. But if you'll get you know good results with several other additives as well. So if you're using one that you like it, please do. If you want to try out um, Clean Air Fleet, text me at 404-999-1361 and I'll help you out. Otherwise, go to cleanairfleet.com, which is the website for Clint and Kurt, the guys that own Clean Air Fleet. Learn about not just their additive, but also the fuel and oil filtration systems, which can make a huge impact on the reliability and performance of your truck. So there's your answer there. What's my insight? Oh, this is a good one. You stumped me. What's my insight on the R99 fuel? I honestly, if I told you anything about that, I'd be lying, because this is, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna screenshot you, and whoopsie. Almost done. You're going to be entered into next week's drawing for the hat and the refractometer. So let me do this. Let's put as they say in the corporate world, let's put a pin in that, and let me research that, and I will answer that question on next week's live, or I might drop a TikTok about my thoughts on R99, what the heck it is, and how I think it'll affect the industry, which is just my opinion. Yeah. So what I would do, cleaning out the manifold last week, so we clean EGR coolers, and a lot of them can be really messed up, EGR valves. We've got a pretty good process for it, where we use a big ultrasonic machine and some really good degreasers and caustic solvent on that. And again, before anyone barks at me about that, it's, the degreaser and caustic solvent can be just dumped down the sanitary sewers, perfectly fine. But I would say that, maybe some better equipment to clean that out, such as the stuff we use, might make your job a little less horrible. Cool. That's just how you did it. Perfect. Then you did it right. I'm going to give you a thumbs up to that one. Here you go. Booyah. Okay, I'm going to go check my comments here. Hold on a second. Andy Smith says, Andy, hopefully you're still watching. I mentioned fuel additives. Is there one that you recommend? And I do recommend Clean Air Fleet. And the only disadvantage to Clean Air Fleet is it's not available everywhere. Or it's available everywhere, but you have to order it or have it shipped. And that's inconvenient, but it's absolutely fantastic stuff. And so I don't, so that's the one I recommend. There are other ones out there that are easier to get, but I do think Clean Air Fleet is my favorite. Hang on a second here. Let's take this. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Cool beans. Okay. Jimmy asks, and again, Jimmy, you're going to be entered into the drawing for next week. How do you know when it's time to replace a DPF? So if you've got a box truck, whether it be an International or Freightliner M2 with a Cummins 6.7 engine, basically at 250,000 miles, your injectors are going to fail and crack your DPF. But all you have to do is look at your tailpipe. Look at your duct bill underneath the truck, look at your stack. If that isn't just squeaky clean, if there's any soot on that, that means that your DPF has failed and it's time to replace it. So that's really it. You look at your tailpipe. Do you see soot? If you don't see soot, your tailpipe or your DPF is probably just fine. If you see soot, your DPF is cracked and needs to get replaced. So there you go. That's my answer in a nutshell. And so I'm going to answer the question about R99 fuel. You know, what is bull snot? Okay, I'm just looking through my messages here. Chuck, Clean Air Fleet. Look up cleanairfleet.com. We also have a nice article about Clean Air Fleet on our website in the article section, so definitely don't be shy about that. Yeah, that's it, Adam. Get those things cleaned, $750. You just have to, you know, again, it's going to cost a little bit shipping either way. We do have some really good rates for LTL. So if you wanted to, you know, I can quote you on that and go from there. But 404-999-1361 is our number. Please give us a call or a text so we can help you out with that filter for your Ford or whatever you got there. Okay. Well, folks, I'm going to wrap it up here. If you know, can we get one round of taps up here to get some likes going to make sure that before I sign off for the night and have some dinner, I'm hungry. That TikTok definitely sees a couple of that you guys are fans of me. And anybody who asked a question will be entered into the drawing for next week. You know, may the odds be in your favor. Anybody who's watching on YouTube or Facebook, especially YouTube, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the live. Definitely go to youtube.com/DPF Guys and find our channel, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow me on TikTok so you don't miss any of these things coming up. I've been trying to sometimes a little funny, but I'm, you know, trying to do informative stuff, and just, you know, you get a glimpse into the shop and a day in the life of what we do, what I do. And it's sometimes mildly offensive, but hopefully it's not going to bother anybody. So all of that being said, I'm going to say thank you very much for watching, and good night. God bless.
The skills, the might to get your truck rolling clean into the night. Throttle up, feel that clean airflow. Our service so slick, your ride seals the show. DPF Guys, we got the fifth so fine. Hit the road with confidence, now the world's your shrine. Bring in that rig, let's get on track. Breathe easy with no sooty black.